Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else to wrangle this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be, even though I don't know what that is. Now, today we are majorly going to be looking at Modern Horizons 3 spoilers, or previews, you know what I mean. And I do have a plan for a deck that I'm currently working on, and so I'll give you like the base rundown of that after I go over some of the cards in Modern Horizons 3. Let's start off with the Eldrazi in the room. There's Eldrazi. There's a good amount of Eldrazi, and there's the return of the Devoid mechanic. So there's Eldrazi that are technically still colorless because that's what Devoid means, but they have colors. Good times. Either way, we have new Titans. The first one being Emrakul, the World Anew, which is a 12 mana, 12/12 Eldrazi. Whenever you cast a spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls. It has flying, protection from spells, and from permanents that were cast this turn. And when Emrakul, the World Anew, leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. It also has Madness, pay 6 colorless. Which is, fun. Either way, moving on to Kozilek, the Broken Reality. It is a 9 mana, 9/9 Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hand. For each card manifested this way, you draw a card. And then other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. Easily the most tame of the new Titans, but still, new Kozilek. Yeah. Moving into the one that I think is the most disgusting, Ulamog the Defiler. 10 mana, 7/7. Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, target opponent exiles half of their library rounded up. It has Ward. Sacrifice 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Not cards that it exiled, just all cards in exile. And Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. This card is going to be a menace to not just society, but everyone. Anyway, moving on. Now, as much as I would like to go through like every color and talk about all of them, there's a couple of cycle cards that I want to talk about instead, so we're going to do that. I would like to mention, the fetch land reprints, the new Urza lands, but we have new flipwalkers, starting with a Johnny. Noctil Pariah. 1 and a white for a 1/2 cat warrior. When he enters the battlefield, you make a 2/1 white cat warrior creature token. Whenever one or more other cats you control die, you can exile him and return him as a Johnny Noctil Avenger. So 3 loyalty Ajani, +2, put a +1/+1 counter on each cat you control. For a 0, you make a 2/1 white cat creature token. When you do, if you control a red permanent other than a Johnny, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to any target. And for -4, each opponent chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. Yeah. Moving into the next one, we have Tamio, Inquisitive Student. Single blue for a 0/3 Moonfolk Wizard with flying. Whenever she attacks, you investigate. Whenever you draw your 3rd card in a turn, you may exile Tamio and then return her as Tamio, Seasoned Scholar. She is a 2 loyalty Tamio. Her +2 is until your next turn, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, It gets -1, -0 till end of turn. -3, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. And -7 is draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library, rounded up. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. That seems fun. Next up we have Sorin of House Markov. 1 and a black for a 1/4 human noble with lifelink and extort. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, exile Sorin and then return him as Sorin Ravenous Neonite, which is a 3 loyalty Sorin. It has extort. +2, create a food token. -1, he deals damage equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn to any target. And -6, gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a lifelink counter on it if you control a white permanent other than that creature or Sorin. He seems fun. Next up, in red we have Ral, Monsoon Mage. 1 and a red for a 1/3 human wizard. Instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, it deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile him and then return him as Rail, Leyline Prodigy, which is a 2 loyalty Rail. Enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. +1 until your next turn. Instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. -2, deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Rail. And -8, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them without paying their mana costs. That's fun. And in green, we have Grist, Voracious Larva. Single green for a 1/2 insect with Death Touch. Whenever Grist or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay a green. If you do, exile Grist and then return it as Grist the Plague Swarm. It is a 3 loyalty Grist. +1, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill 2 cards. Put a Death Touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. And -6, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect. Yeah, that's cool. But looking at these flip cards, there is the return of the MDFCs. So those are like a spell on one side and a land on the other. So far, I've seen 2 in white. That being Razorgrass Ambush. 1 in a white for an instant. It deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Or Razorgrass Field. Enters the battlefield, you can pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped, and it taps for a white. We also have Witch Enchanter, which is 3 in a white for a 2/2 human warlock. When the Witch Enchanter enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. On the backside is the Witch Blessed Meadow. Same thing, it enters tapped unless you pay 3 life, and it taps for a white. In blue so far, we have Sink into Stupor, which is 1 blue. Instant, return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Or the Soporific Springs. Fun. Same thing, enters taps unless you pay 3 life, taps for a blue. Fell the Profane, 2 black, instant, destroy a creature or planeswalker. Fell Mire on the other side, land, same thing. Enters tapped unless you pay 3 life, taps for a black. In red, we have Sundering Eruption, which is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Destroy a land. Its controller may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped in the shuffle. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. Or Volcanic Fissure. Again, enters tapped, lets you pay 3 life. Taps for a red. In green, we have the Bridgeworks Battle, which is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 till end of turn. It fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. The other side is Tanglespan Bridgeworks. Enters tapped, lets you pay 3 life. Taps for a green. We also have Disciple of Freyalise in green for 3 green. We have a 3/3 Elf Druid. Enters the battlefield. You may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw cards, where X is that creature's power. The backside of that is the Garden of Freyalise. Same as all the other ones. Enters tapped, lets you pay 3. Taps for a green. But more interesting to me is that we have multicolored MDFC lands. So like in black-red, we have the Blood-Soaked Insight. It's 5 and then 2 hybrid Rakdos. It's a sorcery. It costs 1 less to cast for each life your opponents have lost this turn. Target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Until end of your next turn, you may play those cards. If you cast a spell this way, mana of any type can be spent to cast it. The backside is Sanguine Morass. That's low-hanging fruit. I'm not going to go there. It's a land. No option for it to enter untapped. It does enter tapped. But it taps for a black or a red. Drowner of Truth is a 5 and 2 hybrid green or blue, which is Simic. There we go. For a 7/6 Eldrazi with Devoid. When you cast a spell, if colorless was spent to cast it, create 2/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn tokens with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. The backside of it is the Drowned Jungle. Enters tapped, taps for green or blue. Glasswing Grace is 3 and then 2 hybrid Azorius. That's not Azorius, that's Orzhov, my bad. For an enchantment aura, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 flying and lifelink. And the other side is the Age Graced Chapel. Enters tapped, taps for a white or a black. Legion Leadership is 1 in a hybrid Boros. Instant till end of turn. Double target creature's power and it gains first strike. And on the backside of that, we have Legion Stronghold. Enters tapped, taps for a red or a white. In Golgari, we have Revitalizing Repast, which is a single hybrid mana for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains indestructible till end of turn. That's actually really good. The backside is Old Growth Grove. Land. Enters tapped. Taps for a green or a black. In Izzet, we have Rush of Inspiration, which is 1 and 2 hybrid Izzet. Instant, draw 2 cards, then discard a card at random unless you pay 2 energy. Backside, Crackling Falls, enters tapped, taps for white. No. Blue and red. The next one has white in it. Strength of the Harvest, 2 and Selesnya. For an enchantment aura, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each creature and or enchantment you control. Haven of the Harvest on the backside, enters tapped, taps for a green or a white. Next one is Stomp. That's going to be fun to say 10 times fast. Which is 1 and a hybrid Gruul. For a sorcery, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. And it turns into Burn Willow Clearings, enters tapped, taps for red or green. Suppression Ray is 3 and 2 Azorius. For a sorcery, tap all creatures target player controls. You may pay X energy. Then choose up to X creatures tapped this way. Put a stun counter on each of them. The reverse side is the Orderly Plaza. Enters tapped. Taps for white or blue. And finally, we have the Waterlogged Teachings, which is 3 and a Hybrid Dimir. Instant. Search your library for an instant card or a card with flash. Reveal it. Put it into your hand and then shuffle. The backside is Inundated Archive. Enters tapped, taps for a blue and a black. Yeah, there's a lot in this set. I didn't even get through the list to like any of the other stuff, like the alternative arts and stuff. I will be completely upfront and say I will likely not be buying any sealed product from this set, and instead will just kind of pick out things that I want for singles and decks and stuff. But yeah, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to briefly talk about a deck that I'm slowly working on putting together. I'll see you in a minute. And we're back. Now, that took more than a few minutes. For a couple of reasons, I had to go put some dishes away. Also, we've been doing this walking challenge at work, and while my team is in like 17th place, I'm trying to stay ahead of the pack just in the 10 people that are in my team. And I have destroyed my ankles. So I'm in a considerable amount of pain. And it takes me a little bit to hobble around right now until I get all my joints loosened up. And they are not yet at this point in the morning. But moving on. I was going through some cards yesterday, and I came across this card, and I thought, well, I have decks that are like kind of on the back burner that aren't getting played right now. I could steal some cards from them, and they wouldn't really care. I'll just write down what I steal. And then if I want to play them again, I can just put them back together. So the card that I found was Sigarda, Font of Blessings. 2 green-white for a 4/4 angel with flying. Other permanents you control have hexproof. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast angel spells and human spells from the top of your library. So the 2 decks that I ended up cannibalizing for this, the first one was my mono-white Giada, Font of Hopes. Giada herself being 1 and a white for a 2/2 angel with flying vigilance. Other angels enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. And it taps for a white, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. So she ended up in the deck. The other deck I cannibalized was my King Darien Extra Large C8. Don't need to read him because he's not included in the deck. Mostly what I stole from him was land ramp and the green-white lands that he had. But there was a few cards I want to touch on that he had in there that I wanted. First up, we have Felidar Retreat. 3 and a white for an enchantment. Has landfall. When it land enters, you either make a 2/2 cat, or you put a counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance till end of turn. The main thing we're going to be doing is putting counters on things a lot. There were several humans in that list that I wanted. The first one being Lenore Autumn Sovereign. 2 green-white for a 0/4 human noble. She has Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. Then, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. Continuing with this theme of getting stuff on the board, we have Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, 1 white white for a star 4 human knight with vigilance. Adeline's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Whenever you attack for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. After that, we have Maja, Bredegar Protector, 2 green white white for a 2/3 human warrior. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Continuing on the train of creatures out of that deck that we wanted, we have Shalai, Voice of Plenty, 3 and a white for a 3/4 angel with flying. You, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have hexproof. For 4 green green, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Now, we did talk about a couple of things that make some tokens. So we also wanted to steal the Divine Visitation out of that deck. 3 white white for an enchantment. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. And the last card I want to talk about from that deck that we stole was the Ajani the Great-Hearted. 2 green white for a 5 loyalty Ajani. Creatures you control have vigilance. +1, you gain 3 life. -2, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. So, yeah. What I ended up doing was kind of going for a light tokens, slightly heavier +1/+1 counter theme deck with this. And that's, yeah. Now, looking at the Giada list that I was cannibalizing, I stole most of it because it's angels. But the few I want to talk about, okay, more than a few, there's a good chunk. First up, we have Herald of War, 3 white white for a 3/3 angel with flying. Whenever she attacks, put a counter on it. Angels and humans you cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Herald of War. Just in the Giada deck, this was really good because if you cast this and then, you already had 3 other angels, it would come in as a 6/6 and then all of your angel spells would be 3 less. The same principle here, just a slightly different way of getting there. After her, we have, the big one. Avacyn, Angel of Hope. 5 white 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 for an 8/8 angel with flying, vigilance, indestructible. Other permanents you control have indestructible. There's only, I want to say, 2 other creatures that I added with triple white mana pips. This is clearly the best of them. And I'm not going to go over the other 2 in this quick breakdown. Instead, we're going to move on to Lyra Dawnbringer. 3 white white for a 5/5 angel with flying, first strike, and lifelink. Other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. I definitely tried to make Lyra work when she first came out, but we didn't have the number of cheap angels that we do today. And, she's all the better for it. Things like Righteous Valkyrie, which is 2 and a white for a 2/4 angel cleric with flying. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to the creature's toughness. As long as you have at least 7 more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. Speaking of life gain, we have Resplendent Angel, 1 white white for a 3/3 angel with flying at the beginning of each end step. If you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance, and you can pay 3 and triple white. Till end of turn, Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and lifelink. Norn's Choir Master is 3 white white for a 5/4 Phyrexian angel with flying and first strike. But she says whenever a commander you control enters the battlefield or attacks, proliferate. Works pretty good with +1/+1 counters, if I do say so myself. Next up in this things that we stole for this deck, we have Amaria Shepherd. 5 white for a 4/4 angel with flying and landfall. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return a non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If the land is a plains, return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. And let's round this out with, let's say these four. First up, we have Resplendent Marshal. 1 white for a 3/3 angel warrior with flying. When Resplendent Marshal enters the battlefield or dies, you may exile another creature card from your graveyard. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than Resplendent Marshal that shares a creature type with the exiled card. The second of the four is Thraben Watcher, which is 2 white for a 2/2 angel with flying and vigilance. Other non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Angelic Field Marshal is number 3 at 2 white for a 3/3 angel with flying and lieutenant as long as you control your commander. Angelic Field Marshal gets +2/+2 and creatures you control have vigilance. And we're going to round this one out with Angelic Skirmisher. 4 white for a 4/4 angel with flying. At the beginning of each combat, choose First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink. Creatures you control gain that ability till end of turn. And yeah, that's kind of it. It's still a work in progress. I'm still trying to decide if this is something I really want to, pull the trigger on. But it looks like it's going to be a fun deck. And it's, not going to be super oppressive. Oh, right. I do have 2 other cards that I found when I found the Sigarda that will also be gracing us in this deck. The first of which is Captain Sisay. 2 green-white for a 2/2 human soldier. You can dapper, search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Very good at getting all of the legendaries I've mentioned so far, but also Sigarda, Heron's Grace, which is 3 green-white for a 4/5 with flying. It's an angel. You and humans you control have hexproof. You can pay 2, exile a card from your graveyard, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So, yeah, and again, it just seems like it's going to be a fun deck. So, that's all I got. And I bid you adieu. And until we meet again, bye-bye. Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.